Welcome in, friends and future friends, to this episode of the Sports and the World podcast. I'm Ladarius. I hope all of you are well and safe out there. And we already got a comment from John Brooks. I'm first and smash the like button. Thank you, John. Hope all of you guys do the same. If you're watching on YouTube, and subscribe to the channel while you're there as well. Much appreciated. And by the way, John and CW did a great job with the wrestling show earlier this afternoon. Did an excellent job, and shout out to both of them for doing amazing work. Friends and future friends, we have a lot to get to. We got to talk about a lot happening week 2 the NFL. Transition to week 3. College football got 3 Browns big bets. I guess three games I like. We went 2-1. We're not going to talk about Florida. I'm going to talk about that third game. WNBA playoff, and I want to talk about quarterbacks. So I don't know where to go. But let's start. Let's lead with the WNBA today, because there's a lot of listen. I'm just not starting it with the WNBA today because my Storm comeback victory against the hottest team in the WNBA, snapping their 17-game winning streak. There will be a game 3 tomorrow. I'll be locked in and tuned in because Thursday night football. Look, we'll get there. And listen, another interesting series to me is I'm looking at the Dream and the Fever. Fever got it to 1-1, so we have a lot of game 3. Phoenix down 1-0 Liberty, but Breonna Stewart, we don't know if she's going to play. And that could be a huge game changer. Like, as great as Sabrina Ionescu, without having, Phoenix is not slouching with SATW Sablet. Listen, Alyssa Thomas, they have a core there. So I'm curious to see how that's going to shape up there. Listen, Minnesota over the Valkyries. Shout out to Natalie Nikis for winning Coach of the Year. Well-deserved. Expansion team making the playoffs. It seems surreal. But shout out to them, that organization selling out games, and they won't be able to play a home game in their ring. You guys can figure that out. But the deeper that goes, we'll definitely have a clearer picture of the playoffs come next episode. I just want to lead with that and just say, shout out to I love the WNBA playoffs. I love it. Listen, with that Storm, I can't get over. Shout out to Dominique our rookie, 2nd overall pick. Shout out to Skylar Diggins. Shout out. It was a real team effort in that game. And to be the team like the Aces, who championship caliber, I think they're one of the more experienced rosters playoff-wise. And to do that was absolutely amazing to watch. So like I said, we'll always talk about more about that, but let's talk about the NFL. And like I said in the thing, it's one of those things where, and I just noticed with my thing, and I'm glad I caught it. I gotta change the old banner, but so you'll see a little change there. Look, a lot of teams. Listen, it's just week 2. So I'm not saying, hey, panic but when I look at the games and you look at some of the games, listen, Washington, Green Bay, 27, getting the 2017-18 win. Listen, the Micah Parsons effect, a fully healthy Micah Parsons, I'm telling you, this what a difference a trade makes, because this was already a top 10 defense in the National Football League last season, Jeff Hafley, and the job he did there defensively. Now you add Micah Parsons, and it looks like a top 5. It looks like a Super Bowl contending team. Contingent on Jordan Love, and then even with the receiver situation, we'll see how that shapes out. And listen, who had Dallas and who had the Giants and the Cowboys scoring a combined 77 points? Did y'all have that? Did you have it on your schedule? I don't know. But it's one of those things where it's quite interesting in that regard. And look, I'm very impressed. And listen, like with Dallas, Brandon Aubrey, he probably won somebody a fantasy league. While we're messing around, he probably won somebody a low-key, won somebody a fantasy. Won somebody some fantasy league with those kicker points. It just goes to show you that kickers do matter. And now we got to shift to the reality of it all. Let's talk about a lot of stuff going on with quarterbacks. Specifically, situation with Cincinnati, Joe Burrow. And John said that it wasn't on my bingo card. It wasn't on a lot of people's bingo. I absolutely agree, John. It's one of those things where like I said, it wasn't on a lot of people's bingo card. And but it was a great competitive game. But let's talk about the quarterback situation. A tale of two different situations. Listen, Cincinnati got the win, 31-27, losing Joe Burrow for a couple months with turf toe. You know, Jake Browning is a suitable backup. Let's be clear. But listen, Joe Burrow has an injury history. And that's where I feel people need to be concerned about. And to me, it goes back to a choice that was made some years ago. And people are like, oh, where's he going to go with it? It's like, I'm going to read you his injury history since being in the league. And then I'm going to also talk about the 2021 NFL draft as well, how this kind of coincides. Now, when we look at Joe Burrow and his injury history, here we're going to start back from 2020. We're going to start. He was drafted torn ACL, PCL, MCL, and meniscus. That was in November 2020. He underwent surgery December 2020, completed the rehab version of the 2021 season. So there's that. And then the following year, December 2021, dislocated finger. Didn't necessarily miss any time. He had a great game through 348 yards. MCL sprain February 2022. And so, but here's the thing. In week 17 of that regular season, weeks earlier, he had strained his knee, and it was in the Super Bowl with a grade 2 MCL sprain. He recovered, then missed time the rest of the year, 2020. Calf strain in July 2023. Torn wrist ligament November 2023. Turf toe this month. It feels like this man's taking hit. If it feels like he's taking a lot of hits, it's because. And here's a great stat. So when we look at who's taking, so like I said, Joe Burrow was drafted 2021 NFL draft. Excuse me, the 2020 draft. Excuse me. So since then, like, who's been the most sacked quarterback since that 2020 season? Since 2020. And so it goes most sacks taken by a quarterback. Russell Wilson has more since 2020. Joe Burrow, 201 sacks since 2020. Like, Russ and Burrow are the only two quarterbacks right now who've been sacked at least 200 times since 2020. Because remember, with Russ, there was an issue with the offensive line in Seattle. And Joe Burrow's had a history of issues with the offensive line there. And in that regard. And so, and then we got John coming in. John, I thought says they would have tried to trade for Kurt. I'll get to that. We'll definitely get to that because I have some thoughts on that. We got my wise man. Ladera didn't give me a bingo card. I am so sorry, Craig. My wise man. I'll definitely send you one next time. And Craig makes the point. Cincinnati has to do crazy gymnastics to afford Kurt. Jameis and Cincinnati. See, I have about three. I have two quarterbacks that I really like that they should move. And Jameis is one of them. And there we go. Let's have a conversation amongst themselves in the chat. I like it. Hope you guys are still listening. But so Joe Burrow's been sacked 201 times since the 2020 season. And this is where I go. What if I told you that the Bengals made a business decision back in the 2021 NFL draft? Now, going back to the 2020 going back to that year's NFL draft, they took Jamar Chase. So they took Jamar Chase 5th overall. That was the draft of when there was Trevor Lawrence. Ironically enough, that was the Trevor Lawrence draft. He went number 1 overall, and they took Jamar 5th. But also on the board was offensive lineman Penei Sewell, the great offensive lineman from Oregon. And they took Jamar Chase. Now, before people say, "Oh, Darius," that's what I'm saying is, you build your team it should start with protecting your quarterback. Listen, Jamar Chase, all-pro, great receiver, top 3 receiver in the National Football League. Like, let's be super clear. I'm not trying to mitigate or trying to knock him. But think about in this draft, just in the top 15, we all that was the same draft. Listen, that was also the Micah Parsons draft as well, where Dallas took him 12th overall. But they had Rashawn Slater went to the Chargers. Alijah Vera-Tucker went to the Jets. And this was a draft where you could have made the case that Sewell over Chase. Excuse me, yeah. And in that same draft, so if you think about it, in that same draft, when you look back, they didn't go receiver. But here's the thing: I understand you need a top flight receiver for Joe Burrow, but you have to protect Joe Burrow. And the fact of the matter is, listen, Craig says what I'm saying. Listen, they made their bad pick. Yeah, it's failed. And essentially, this is what I say about the Bengals organization. The prioritization is the issue. Now, I could have argued that they could have traded T. Higgins and still been fine, because you can find great receivers in a draft. You can. We've seen a slew of great receivers go second, third, fourth. There's value in the receiver position more than offensive line. If you want to get a good offensive line, your best bet is to snatch them up early if possible. An elite offensive line. And to the point, and not only that, Craig, I agree with Craig saying it's the priority. They paid Burrow, they paid Chase, and they paid Higgins. And that left lingering issues. And we even saw in the preseason, Joe Burrow was getting smacked around. And you saw it, like, listen, I read you the list of his injuries. And right now, if you're Cincinnati, you have a right to panic. This man's going to be gone 3 months. You're not going to see this man essentially until 2026. And even up to then, you may just, hey, Joe, sit down. Long term. That 2021 NFL draft, they made a decision. Yes, they got Jamar Chase, and Jamar Chase was everything is advertised. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely he was. But at what expense to your franchise quarterback? You did him a disservice, and you passed on a guy who was a 3-time Pro Bowl and 2-time All-Pro in Penei Sewell. That's the good news, bad news. You got an elite receiver, but you passed on also an elite tackle. Protecting your quarterback, and Joe Burrow had injury history going in. Maybe not when he was at Ohio State and LSU. When you're building a team, you build from the inside out. Make sure you have an offensive line. In a league where defensive lines are stronger, you need offensive linemen to protect. Now it's about blitzing and going after the quarterback. Tale as old as time, but the difference is now these are athletes. These are athletes. These defensive, they're absolute athletes. And you just can't put any old body in front of them. You need an elite offensive line. You build from the inside out. And I can't believe that teams don't get that. And thank you, Craig. I appreciate that. Because to me, they made a decision back in 2021, the year after he was drafted. And I read what happened in 2020. That's the kicker. I told you what happened. So if I told you that in his rookie season, if I told you that Joe Burrow was out, with a torn ACL, PCL, MCL, meniscus, and it happened at week 11, yeah, and that should have been a flag. We got to protect this guy. We got to protect this man for all that it's worth. And guess what? They didn't. And like Craig said earlier, they made their bed. I argue they made their bed back in 2021. Because Jamar Chase, listen, here's the thing. People want flash. You want a car. You want, like, let me get that Mercedes and let me get something flashy and amazing. But I also contend, get you a nice Ford or Dodge, whatever truck brand you drive. We're not sponsored by any. You need something tough. You need something in the trenches. Get you a player that's generational, that's going to last you the next decade and a half, potentially. And that guy could have been Penei Sewell. While Jamar Chase is great, and I'm not knocking his greatness, in that same draft, Nico Collins went in the third round. And Nico Collins is a pretty good receiver. So when I say there's value at the receiver position, I mean there's value at the receiver position. And like John is saying, they wanted a Lambo instead of a nice pickup truck. Absolutely they did. And you pay for that. Like, listen, if you're a Lambo, ain't gonna get you. Listen, a Lambo is good when you drive on the streets. But when you're trying to get the rugged terrain, you drive on a rough road, that Lambo ain't gonna be so useful. Just like a receiver is great, but who's going to protect the quarterback to get the ball to you? You build from the inside out. It's fundamental. Great teams do that. And it blows my mind when we look at, like, the Eagles, who we'll talk about. They literally invest in the offensive line. And it's amazing when you look at great teams. You look at, like, look what happened with Patrick Mahomes in that Super Bowl when they faced the Bucs. What did they immediately do? They went out and addressed offensive line. What did Chicago try to do this season for their quarterback? Well, it's not working out so great, but they went out and spent money specifically on the interior of that offensive line. Your quarterback is the face of your franchise. You protect your assets at no expense. And like I go back to what Craig said. They tried to fix this. You just can't pluck offensive linemen and make it work. When you have position to draft an elite offensive lineman, you take it. The Chargers have done that. When they drafted Joe Alt, they got Rashawn Slater. They wanted to protect Justin Herbert. And you can always get a receiver late in the draft. You could also get receivers in free agency. There's always value. And that's what gets me with certain teams. Right now, the Cincinnati Bengals right now, I read you Joe Burrow's injury history. They, like I said, they made a business decision in 2021. They made a business decision. Jamar Chase is great. He's great. But Joe Burrow is out 3 months. And now you got another guy throwing to Jamar Chase. That's not Joe Burrow. That should be the concern in Cincinnati. And this is not the first time Cincinnati has made terrible decisions. That's a whole nother episode in itself. That's like a Ken Burns. That's a Ken Burns PBS documentary series about that. And you can literally break down how this organization has been ran for the last 3 decades. But nonetheless, so sticking with quarterbacks. You know, we talked about Joe Burrow. Now I kind of want to shift gears and look at the situation going on for San Francisco. Like, great win, without Brock Purdy. Mac Jones looked great, 279 passing yards in that way. And then you want to talk about elite quarterback, we'll talk about Josh Allen. 30-10. Josh Allen didn't need to throw the ball 200 yards. That's how great of a player he is. The fact of the matter is when we talk about quarterbacks and we talk about protection, there's a reason why offensive linemen and quarterbacks should be making the most money. I say you invest in quarterbacks, elite quarterbacks, offensive linemen, defensive, because they don't grow on trees. I'm not saying there's not receivers or elite receivers are growing everywhere, but the fact of the matter is that when I look, like I read, Mac Jones doing a great job, in place of Brock Purdy. Jared Goff, 34, like Penei Sewell's protecting him, so he's doing great. And let me tell you about that game. That was a message. Dan Campbell was saying that, hey, we didn't need Ben Johnson. Maybe Ben Johnson needed the line. It's early on, but that was the message. And the whole narrative could change in the next couple of months. But when we talk about Mac Jones, we talk about Josh Allen. Listen, we talk about Lamar Jackson putting on a show against Cleveland. Mac Jones, the second coming of Mac Jones, 316 passing yards against a very good Denver defense. Mac Jones, 23 of 34, 316 and a touchdown. And by the way, he got one with his legs as well. It's like, it's amazing when we talk about quarterbacks. Like, people like a change of scenery. It's like, and it goes back to the Giants. It's like, think about who the Giants let walk out the door. Like, they let Saquon and Danny Dimes walk out. They invested first round picks in there and let them walk out the door. But specifically Daniel Jones, and we were talking about, Daniel Jones shouldn't have got the money, should have paid Saquon. My concern wasn't Daniel Jones' fault that he got paid. Joe Schoen and Brian Daboll, they made a business decision. And it's easy to say, it's a terrible decision, because we all thought, man, good riddance. But the way that Daniel Jones was not supposed to be the starter. The plan was for Anthony Richardson to have the competition to step up. That didn't happen. And now Daniel Jones early on is looking pretty good. That's a credit to Shane Steichen and that offensive coaching staff. And even you look at the Eagles game, it's like, here's the thing. People complain about Jalen Hurts' stat line. And I'm like, yeah, okay. 15-22, 101 yards passing. He only got sacked twice, but he scored a rushing touchdown. The key to that game, it's simply boiled down to efficiency, because they were close statistically in a lot of stats. It's that, listen, Saquon Barkley, pedestrian day, I told you, he had 22 carries for 88 yards and a touchdown. But he did have 2 receptions for 6 yards. And now people are wondering, is it time to panic? And that's why I put in the title, like, how about your team's fate? The fate of the Kansas City Chiefs. I'm not saying you worry, but you come into that game, you lost a divisional game. I'm not saying this was a must-win game. Every game, I could argue, every team would say it's a must-win game, like, because you don't like to lose. But the fact that Jalen Hurts went in there and threw 101 yards passing, and they still won the football game, tells me everything that I need to know about this team. For Kansas City, like, there's legit, they only had 1 sack. And listen. Combined, the Eagles got 2 sacks. And then John's talking about Danny Dimes. Daniel Jones got his prop bag. Yeah, Daniel Jones looks completely different. So the question is, was Daniel Jones that bad, or was the coaching for the Giants that bad? Now becomes a question. I'm not saying Giants fans. I'm asking legitimate. Like, it's early on, and he can play like cheeks the rest of the way, but early on, it looks like they have a formula there that works for him. It also helps that he has an elite running back in Jonathan Taylor, like he had for the Giants with Saquon. It all helps that how he looks great. Great quarterbacks look great with a great offensive line, great pieces around them in and out. When you have a great core, not saying any quarterback can look great, but they look pretty good. The Colts are starting at 2-0. Now, shifting gears, staying, like, I got to give a shout out to my Atlanta Falcons. They went out there, and while there's questions about maybe offensive creativity, John Parker Romo went out there, the new kicker, and outscored the entire Vikings offense. But where Atlanta won, Atlanta time of possession, turnover, time, tempo. Atlanta won the turnover battle. Minnesota had 4 turnovers. They had 2 interceptions and a lost fumble. And two lost fumbles. Yeah. And Atlanta played relatively clean, except for that fumble loss by Drake London. Defensively, shout out, Zach Harris, Brandon Dorless, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 6 sacks. The rookies made an impact for the Atlanta Falcons that we went after. Billy Boning, the rookies got interceptions. Jalen Walker had a sack. James Pierce had half a sack. Ruke got a half a sack, making up for what happened. Listen, I understand it's early times, but Atlanta checked a lot of boxes. Now, offensively, you can work on that. You could definitely improve on your offense somewhere down the road. You definitely can. It's not a situation where you go like, oh man, offensively we're stuck. You can fix that. It's a fixable issue. And then John Brooks is jumping in talking about the Falcons defense played their best game against the Vikings and we ran the ball well and we got turned. Yeah, I think I think Younghoe Koo should be cleaning out his locker because I defended Koo for a while too. I'm like, listen, Koo's very likable, but like I say, sometimes likability peaks. I say likability peaks in high school. Sometimes you got to show, like okay, you belong in the room. And Younghoe Koo, listen, John Parker Romo had a difficult game. Like, oh, maybe Koo's not that bad after all. But the fact that John Parker Romo looked fantastic, I think Koo's time may be up. And shout out to my Falcons, 1-1 on the season, and a team that went begrudgingly. They went 2-0. We'll talk about Tampa Bay. And listen, I'm gonna give props to Baker. Baker Mayfield. You want to talk about a guy, and I know I shouldn't be talking about the competition in our division, but let me tell you something about Baker Mayfield. On that 4th and 10, when they needed it, he absolutely got it. I believe it was like 15, 16 yards. They needed 10. He got 15, 16 yards. Injuries on the offensive line. Went out there, played efficient, put his team in the best position to win. And that's all you can ask for. That's really all you can ask for. And for the Texans, there has to be some questions going on in that locker room. I like DeMeco Ryans. I like CJ Stroud. But when we're looking at CJ Stroud's stats in his first 2 games, he's throwing the ball efficiently. He's still over that 62%, right up 63%. I don't know. and it still feels the big, like he's been sacked 3 times each game, his first 2 games. So, and Craig coming up with the absolutely amazing the Kyle Pitts Pizzance Renaissance. I love it. I should have worn. You know what? If Atlanta wins, listen, Atlanta, the next win I got, the only Falcons jersey that I have is the Kyle Pitts jersey, because I told you my name on fan teams are Kyle is not the Pitts. I believe in Kyle Pitts. There's a lot of Kyle Pitts believers out there as well. And then John chimes in as the Falcons need to get their O-line fair, which I believe, yeah. Offensive line is always a sorted issue, and them losing Caleb McGarry was a blow. And I think they have to, if they can figure that out, there's something there. And then Craig was going for Renaissance. Yeah. Oh, so I did say it right. The Renaissance. I did say it right. Sometimes the brain, sometimes the medulla oblongata works, sometimes the medulla oblongata takes it, give it, and sometimes it take it away. But and then looking back, can we talk about the Chargers? It's like, can we talk about Justin Herbert and the job he's done? Here's why I like the Chargers to win the division. Their first 2 wins of the season, AFC West games. They're literally up 2-0. They have 2 wins in the division. And it also kind of helps when Geno Smith has 3 interceptions and can't complete pass over 10 yards. That's a different question. But once again, Justin Herbert, listen, they threw the ball 27 times. And Justin had 9. So all in all, the balance of the offense came back. They ran 25 times. So it was a balance. And we saw Najee Harris. We saw with Najee and Omarion getting 8 carries each. And this Charger defense, Davion Hidley, who they really love there, Jamari Caldwell and Khalil return to the MAC. Excellent work there as well. 3 interceptions. Henley, Jefferson, and Jackson there. And the Chargers, listen, folks, friends and future friends, it's just week 2. But if your team is sitting 2-0, 1-1, you're feeling pretty good. But if your team is sitting at 0-2 right now, so basically what I'm saying is, now there's certain 0-2 teams where they could turn it around, but like out of the 0-2 teams, the only one who can realistically turn it around is the Chiefs, because of that championship pedigree. Because if you look at the Dolphins, who they have to play Buffalo Thursday night, Miami has not shown, like they competed against New England. Shout out to them. Tua had a great game. But for Miami, the question's been the defense. And listen, I'm not saying Mike McDaniel, if he had to do odds, he's looking like the first coach to be fired. People thought it was going to be Dayball. I don't know. But it's looking like Mike McDaniel could be because the defense, whatever didn't happen they had Vic Fangio, and Vic Fangio, great coach, ends up in Philly, rest is history. But you look at Chicago. Listen, Ben Johnson's 0-2, and listen, they lost in their first game. The Vikings had a 21-point comeback scored 21 points in the fourth, and the Lions just destroyed them. They're 0-2 in the division now, and it's very hard to climb up. Especially, we talked about Green Bay, we talked about Minnesota, who's going to start Carson Wentz. It's a different conversation, but like even Detroit. You had to give it time. Like, they didn't look great against Green Bay because Green Bay's defense. And listen, first game, new coordinators, yeah. Jared Goff didn't look great. But that's why I say marathon, not a sprint. And listen, the Saints and the Panthers, I don't know what to say. Kellen Moore, good luck. Dave Canales got to figure out Bryce Young. Like, is Bryce Young the guy? can't because there's the cores you got to fix. Bryce Young, they did a lot of good things in the offseason. It's early goings, but hopefully they can turn it around, be competitive. And like for the Texans, listen, it feels like offensive line still an issue. It still feels like it's CJ Stroud. Something's going like new offensive coordinator. Something's got to go. Something's got to give there for Tennessee. I'm not surprised. Listen, Cam Ward flashes of greatness, but like Brian Callahan's job, I could also argue maybe on the hot seat as well. Now, I told you week 3 of the NFL season, the Thursday night game. By the way, the preview for that game is out on my social media, Twitter and TikTok at @Ladarius_Brown, Instagram, Ladarius_Browns on my Facebook page. I will share it to the Sports in the World page on Facebook as well later after the show. But it's anywhere you see me on social media. Check it out, love it and like it. Give me your thoughts and feedback, and give me games that you want me to preview as well. Because I just I go with the eye test and go, Shout out to the eye test, great show as well. But so that's how I base it on. So for Miami going to Buffalo, it's going to be tough sledding. Even on the short week, it's going to be tough sledding because I don't know what I'm seeing from Miami to make me feel that, oh man, this team is going to, like Buffalo. It just feels that, like I think Buffalo is in a position where they can do what they want to do offensively. And they eerily remind me of the Philadelphia Eagles, where you don't have to throw the ball a lot. You got a quarterback, great mobility. You have a great, James Cook is one of the better running backs in the National Football League. Buffalo's defense is great. Sean McDermott and them doing a great job there. Joe Brady doing a great job there offensively. For Miami, it's like they can run the ball well. Like I mentioned in the video, they're 4th in rush yards per attempt. So they're running at 5 yards, per attempt. But and Tua had 300 yards passing and over 300 yards passing in the loss to New England. It just feels that defensively something is not clicking. And because right now, listen, they're last in points allowed. They're giving up, and they're last in rushing yards. And defensively, they're, near the bottom half of the league in passing yards and rushing yards per game allowed. And I don't know. And if you're a Dolphins fan, you're probably having questions about what's going to happen. And we got John jumping in saying, I say Buffalo wins. There's no way I'm picking against Josh Allen. Yeah. And to me, betting on the game, because the last time I saw the line, I think it was 11.5. If you know me, betting double-digit lines like that, and this is a Thursday night game. And I know we saw Buffalo take care of the Jets by 20. I don't know. But it feels like Buffalo can do what they want to do. And Miami has to find a way defensively to not stop Josh Allen, contain Josh Allen. Because when you're a great player, it's hard to like, okay, we're going to shut them down. Contain them enough to put your team in a position to win. And I think can Mike McDaniel, and that defensive staff come with the game plan to do that. And we got Miss Pam, Auntie Pam in the chat. Hello there, and everyone in the chat. Happy Wednesday. Thank you so much, Pam. One of the great Falcon fans, one of the great people. Shout out to her. And then John showing his love to, hey, Miss Pamela. And then Pamela saying hi back to John. And thank you for joining. Listen. And by the way, listen, you can listen to this episode and every episode of the Sports in the World podcast, Apple, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts as well. It'll come out 9 times out of 10. It will come out tomorrow. The full episode. So if you missed anything, want to go back, anything as well. And once again, drop your question. If you have questions in the chat, please drop them, because I do this show for you, and I always welcome your feedback and opinion, and so bring that as well. Now, before we get to Brown's big bets, 3 college games that I like. We went, like I said, we went 2-1. We're not going to talk about the Gators thing. We're not going to talk. Tennessee plus 3.5, cha-ching. Cal winning outright, cha-ching. Shout out to Amy Trask and the amazing work that she does. And so I want to talk about college quarterbacks. And I talked about this to the show with, I think I talked with C-Dub and Ron, and I talked about like the guys we went into this season talking about. We went talking about Arch Manning. We were talking about DJ Lagway from Arch Manning of Texas and DJ Lagway of Florida, Clay Klubnik, Cade Klubnik of Clemson. We've been talking about these guys. And let me tell you something. Maybe not looking as great. And people are like, he's gonna go after our here's the thing. When I look at Arch Manning, think about this. Like, he went into a position, and I get it. But here's the thing. Texas is undefeated. Yeah, that's super. And that's great. And like people say, Texas is, well, they're 2-1, and they lost. Their only losses to the number one team in the country. I get it. I'm not going to argue you down. But here's the thing. In the 3 starts, he's throwing a little over 55% completion percentage, 6 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. Now, what do you say, Darius? Well, why are you bringing that up? Like, take away the Ohio State game. Texas has played. You look at Texas' schedule. Thus, up to this point, they played San Jose State, who they beat by 31, and then they beat UTEP just by 17, 27-10. This coming up week, they're going to play. On the 20th, they're going to play Sam Houston State. Then they get to the core of the SEC schedule where they go. Maybe Florida, Oklahoma, Kentucky, Mississippi. It's like in that UTEP game, like, there should be concern. And here's my concern. Arch Manning went 11 of 25, 114 yards, a touchdown, and an interception. Now, the UTEP starting quarterback, Malachi Nelson, 24-36. He threw the ball over almost 68% completion percentage, but he just threw 2 interceptions. He didn't throw any touchdown. Why am I saying that's a concern? Because when you get to the meat and potatoes of the SEC, you can't play like that, respectfully. And we got Craig saying hi. And what's good, my boy Ryan in the birdcage. I got to get on the birdcage. I got to get Ryan on here. Ryan, let me tell you something. Ryan is one of the hardworking dudes. The Birdcage is an excellent show. I suggest y'all check him out, especially Sundays. He knows his HBCUs, and this man is absolutely knowledgeable, and I love connecting with him. He's absolutely amazing in every regard. And I want to go back to John's comment, but I want to also, Ryan, thank you. Hit the like button, the hard work, and then go to Ryan's, go to Birdcage, hit the like button, check him out as well. He's absolutely fantastic there. And then John mentions another quarterback, Gunnar Stockton. We're going to talk about Gunnar. But my thing with Arch is that we got to have but there's he ran the ball in for 2 touchdowns. Why are you complaining? You can't throw 55%. Like, this is a cupcake schedule before you get to the SEC. Okay? This it's not supposed to be an easy route. And it's like, whether it's coaching, whether it's Sarkisian, whether this kid has to figure it out, because listen, after Sam Houston State, it's going to be running the gamut. It's still the SEC. Florida's not playing great, but you still got to play Oklahoma in the Red River rivalry. You still got to play great SEC teams. You can't go around and win games going, 11 of 25, 114 yards. You can't do that. I'm sorry. You simply can't do that and expect to win in the SEC. And then another quarterback I want to talk about is my guy, DJ Lagway. And people were like, "Oh, Darius, you're going to be." He leads the nation. He threw 5. He leads the nation in 6 interceptions. He threw 5 in the loss to LSU in a game where, like, listen. But yet, here's the kicker: he's leading the conference SEC in interceptions, but he's also leading the conference in completions. The kid, listen, 71% completion percentage. But he also leads the nation. He leads the SEC in interceptions. 5 of those 6 interceptions came against LSU. And it blows my mind that it's like maybe I'm the guy that's missing something. We have a great running. But yet we were in a position in an LSU game. Because listen, LSU didn't blow us out of the water. It did not blow the Gators out of the water. We only lost the game by 10. And we're cutting up a loss. We lost to USF. Yeah, we beat LIU. Whoopity-doo. 50 folks. We got to have that conversation. And Pamela, we definitely get you on the show. Our show labor that may have been lit. Pam, I would love to be on the show. I think I was talking to Christy. Christy Lewis was also amazing, and I want to get on that show. Like I say, for those who know, I'm also a writer editor for Beyond Women's Sports Rail. So I write about. Listen, I finished WNBA. I just wrote an article about Tina Charles joining Athletes Unlimited, which I also cover as well. Listen, we got to talk about the Atlanta Dream. Listen, with Alicia Gray, Brittany Gray, that team is very good. And listen, it's like they have a game on their hands against the Fever. And a shout out to the Fever, like all the injuries, like no Caitlin Clark, no problem. That's great coaching. That's Stephanie White doing a great job. And I still love what Carl Schmenko's come in doing his first season with the Dream as well. But Pam, I would love to be on the show. I don't know. I'll drop you my information. I think I follow you on Twitter. Just let me know, and I'll hit you up. And I'd love to be on the show to talk about the Atlanta Dream and the WNBA playoffs as well. Now, going back to the quarterback situation, like I think DJ Lagway. Listen, I just told you he leads the SEC in completions at 71, but he also leads the nation in interceptions. That's telling me is that, man, with this kid, he knows he's efficient, but when he gets it right, he gets it right. But when he gets it wrong, he gets it wrong. And that's a double-edged sword situation. And listen, quarterbacking is not a science, it's a process. But like listen, the Gator schedule, here's what's next. We got Florida. Florida, we got to go at Miami. We got to go. We're hosting Texas. We got to face Texas A&M, Mississippi State. We got to play Georgia, Florida-Georgia game. We go at Kentucky, at Ole Miss, Tennessee, and Florida State. If we can't get at least 2 to 3 more wins, I don't see Billy Napier surviving the season. And listen, we fired a guy in Dan Mullen, who I said my only beef with Dan Mullen was he didn't recruit in season. That was my only beef with Dan Mullen. I think Dan Mullen was terrific. I'm not walking it back, but I said it many times. I said he just didn't recruit in season. I think that was a huge issue. But they got to figure it out down there in Gainesville at some point. And now staying in the South, going up the road a bit up the coast. We're gonna go to Clemson. And boy, if you're a Clemson fan, yeesh. And because Cade Klubnik so far, 59% completion percentage, 3 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. That's up there for the most in the ACC. That's not good. Clemson, I feel, is in the same boat as Texas. So the difference is Clemson's in the ACC, and they have the route should have been easier. And when I look at Clemson's schedule, They lost to LSU by 7. Beat Troy, lost by the Georgia Tech by 3. You know, they face Syracuse. They're hosting Syracuse. They go at North Carolina, at Boston College. And listen, and their next ranked opponent they face is not until November 8th. And they face number 7 Florida State. So with them, there's a chance to get back wins against Syracuse, North Carolina, Boston College, SMU, and Duke. There's a chance to make it interesting. It's a chance to make it very interesting out there in the Atlantic Coast Conference. Because right now, it's Georgia Tech, NC State. You know, when they're the ones that had 3 wins in the conference so far: Georgia Tech, NC State, and Stanford. It's still up for grabs. If people like when we get to we're getting to the meat and potatoes of these conference games, and that's why I say Arch has to step it up. Okay, Klubnik has to step it up, and like I say, that's that. People I'm not picking at your team. I'm not picking at your team. I'm just saying what's out there and what's there. And then, you know, you look at South Carolina, came off a great win. I think Lenore Sellers is going to figure it out. Listen, yes, there's 2 touchdowns to the interception. But I don't know. But my biggest thing is with Arch and Lagway. Because with Lagway, my God, he leads the conference in SEC in completions, but he also leads it in interceptions. That's telling me is that, man, when the ball comes out of his hands, it's going to find somebody's hands 71% of the time. It's just a matter of which hands. Like 71% of the time, it goes into the hands of a Gators player. The other 29 is split between either incompletions or interceptions. But more than that, it hits the ball's going to get a completion. So yeah. So speaking of that, I did make a bet on. I didn't do Florida and Miami. Maybe I didn't want to. Maybe I jinxed them last week. Because you know when you're a fan, you feel like you're jinxing. I feel like maybe I jinxed my team. I don't know. But let's get these out of the way. Put a button on this show and let you guys carry on with your evening. Once again, like, listen, and subscribe to this episode, every episode of the Sports in the World podcast. Wherever you get your podcast, follow me on social media, Twitter and TikTok at @there's_Brown. There's _Brown on Instagram, and follow the Facebook page, Sports in the World, and follow me also as well on Facebook as well. I'll be posting games and previews and things of that nature. Now, 3 Browns big bets. We went 2-1. You know, we took Tennessee plus 3.5. It was kind of shaky. We got the 3. We're good. Listen, Cal, I'm telling you, Amy Trask. It was all Amy Trask. I said Minnesota. I'm like, they're underdogs against Minnesota. I'm like, yeah, give me the plus. And once again, if you like road dogs, not the wrestler, but then you better call somebody. And can we also follow you on the street respectfully and have me a Dr. Pepper and a snack if you do. And the wise man will take care of you. So let's go. Let's run it down. Let's go out to the Big Ten. Number 9 Illinois heading down to Bloomington to face going to state over to face the 19th ranked Hoosiers of Indiana. In Illinois is plus 5.5. I love this. And you're like, well, Darius, why do you love it? Because to me, it comes down to specifically who I like in terms of, like, I look at the quarterback position a lot. We talk about the quarterback position, I feel, ad nauseum on here. And so when I look at this matchup and I look at the quarterback situation, like I mentioned with Illinois, and to me, Luke Altmaier, 8 touchdowns, 0 interceptions, throws the ball 709 passing yards, very, very, very efficient. Now, here's the thing. The last 5 matchups, Illinois won the last matchup back in 2023 by 3. Indiana beat them by 3. Indiana 10. Like the blow, like the 3 most recent meetings. Illinois won outright. Indiana won by 3 and 10 respectively. But this is a match of 2 great quarterbacks who have not thrown an interception. Fernando Mendoza has not thrown an interception. And the X factors could be when you look at, like, well, who the great receivers? Listen, Illinois has to find a way to stop Omar Cooper Jr. and Hank Beatty for Illinois. Someone's got to stop him. Defensively, that's where it's going to be I'm not saying pick Illinois outright. I'm just saying take Illinois plus 5.5. I feel like this game is going to be very, very, very close. It gives me, it's going to be high scoring. I know it might be because neither quarterback has thrown an interception this season. Okay, combined they have 17 touchdowns to 0 interceptions. They have over 1,400 yards passing combined, 17 touchdowns to no interceptions. Like, it could be a low-key, high-scoring game. And I don't know what the over-under points are, but I'll get that for you. But like I said, I really like I really like this matchup here for Indiana. Like, Indiana could win, but like I think it's going to be super close. I feel it's going to be super close because when I look at, we'll use FanDuel. Shout out to FanDuel. I use a hard work here for. But when I look at the line, because I don't know the over under, because I would probably tell you to kind of tease the under. And I'm looking here. I'm looking live. Like, you are looking live. I'm looking live here. And I'm looking, and I guess I got to do it this way. If I can spell. So the over-under is 52.5. And I'm just telling you, I don't know. If you don't feel comfortable about, if you think Indiana's gonna run away with it, then I'll tell you, go take the over. But if you feel like Illinois can hang around and or win, take the Illini. I like this. I like Brent Bielema in this matchup, and Kurt Signetti for Indiana. I like this matchup. So take Illinois plus 5.5. Now we'll go back to the SEC. Number 22 Auburn at number 11 Oklahoma. Listen, this is the only game where I like the favorite. I like 6.5 from Oklahoma. I love John Mateer. I absolutely love this man. And I feel that when we talk about quarterbacks and we talk about, like, John Mateer putting himself in the conversation and, put early days in the Heisman conversation, John Mateer has played pretty well. Like, he uses legs, like 5 touchdowns, 3 interceptions, not ideal, but it's his legs and it's the efficiency I really like. And Jackson Darnold turning it on for Alabama, former Oklahoma quarterback, Jackson Darnold. Now, in the 3 most recent matchups, Oklahoma has won all 3. Oklahoma won by 6 back in 2024. And that's what makes me believe, I think the key to this game is going to be, can Oklahoma do something against Auburn's defense? That's where my concern is. Like, for Oklahoma, listen, this is about Torrey Blaylock. And what are we going to get out of that from the run game? From the run game, Jeremiah Cobb for Auburn and Torrey Blaylock for Oklahoma. Like, this may come down to the run game, but I trust Oklahoma at home. Listen, if you're not confident, you can take the plus 6.5 from Auburn. But I like Oklahoma in this game. I'll take the minus 6.5. It's a risky biscuit, but I'll take it. I think they can win by a touchdown. They win by over a touchdown. Now, the final game, we always like to pick a game out west. Michigan State at USC. Plus 17.5 dogs. Plus 17.5. Like shooketh. Absolutely shooketh. Like what do we do? It's like what? It's like these guys are down. Like what? And I understand like USC's in the top 25. They're number 25. But like the most recent matchup is 1990. So we're not gonna delve in. But I'll tell you who I've been the quarterbacks in this game, Aiden Childs. Absolutely put that 6 touchdowns to 1 interception. We can talk about Nick Marsh, Aiden Child's favorite weapon, in terms at the receiver position. We can talk about like I know this like early skill, but this is why I say you get the momentum. And for Cal, like listen, Wayman Jordan, Malachi, each team has a star running back and receiver. It comes down to defense. Do we trust SoCal's defense? Do we trust Michigan State's defense? And I feel 17.5 feels steep. And I feel that line has going to change if it hasn't changed. If you've locked in on 17.5 already, good for you. Because I feel that this might drop to maybe 15.5, maybe 14. Because I really, really love Aiden Childs. And I love this Michigan State team. And shout out to Haley Murray. Shout out to the biggest Michigan State fan that I know. You know, Jonathan Smith, they're doing a great job taking with this program. And I just feel 17.5 on the road. I get it. If this game was in Michigan State, I think the line would reflect that it would drop. But I think USC could very well win this game, but I think Michigan State could keep it close and hang around enough to tease a win. Because it feels like Aiden Childs, Jaden Maivia, it's going to be a great, great matchup. And so once again, wrap it up before I wrap up the show. Michigan State plus 17.5, Illinois plus 5.5, Oklahoma minus 6.5. Friends and future friends, thank you so much for joining for this episode of the Sports and the World podcast. Like I say, like, listen, subscribe to this episode, every episode of the podcast. Shout out to the chat. Shout out to Craig. Shout out to Pamela. Shout out to John. Shout out to the Birdcage for all joining me. It's much appreciated. I love you guys. Like I say, reach out to me on social media. Follow me on social media, Twitter and TikTok, Ladarius_Brown. Facebook. Follow me on Facebook as well if you have Facebook. If not, I understand. But the podcast has a page. We're posting previews of the Miami Buffalo game are there on all forms of social media. Also, how about the YouTube channel? Follow the YouTube channel as well. Friends and future friends, until I see and hear you again next time, I'm Ladarius. Be real, be you, be blessed, and be safe from all of us here from the Sports and the World podcast.